your delegation is due to visit. Any expectations from the EU-India relations?
Well, I think we are going through a particularly happy moment in EU-India relations. The past few years we have seen great strides. We have seen the decision to resume the negotiation on the free trade agreement. We have seen the visit of the President of the Commission in 2022. And we have seen the setting up of the Trade and Technology Council, an extremely important tool that brings together ministers from the Indian government and two vice presidents of the European Commission to discuss issues such as the security of supply chain or green technologies. So issues which are particularly important for the future India, the European Union, and I think main countries of all. So I think we are at a moment where we are really achieving a target set in terms of cooperation and collaboration.
What could the G20 really do in ensuring security in the realm of food and energy when the world is grappling with the worst crisis ever?
Well, I think it's important we look at the causes of the rise in food prices. And as I said earlier, this is the outcome of a deliberate Russian policy. We have seen now also Russia withdrawing from the Black Sea grain agreement. We see Russia bombing the Ukrainian ports and storage facilities. So there is a very deliberate action directing at making the steady supply of grains from Ukraine impossible. This affects a large number of nations, particularly poor nations, particularly in Africa. That's why, as the European Union, we believe that the international community needs to come together and make it clear to the Russian leadership that it's not acceptable to resort to this sort of tactics, that we need to resume the Black Sea grain agreement.
Since the Bali summit, where we saw consensus, a document come through, for India and India's presidency, there have been 19 ministerials, not a single joint communique or an outcome document with consensus. The Russia-Ukraine war is certainly an aspect, but also China. There are impediments and challenges. What's your reading on the challenges that India has had to face?
Well, unfortunately, we are living through a very erratic moment in international relations. We are not in a business-as-usual environment. We have a Russian aggression ongoing in Europe, a Russian aggression against Ukraine, which is continuing, causing unspeakable loss of lives and damage, having a clear effect on food prices and energy prices. And let me underscore this. This is the result of a deliberate Russian policy. So all this clearly makes the circumstances very difficult for the Indian presidency. What is happening with this aggression is relevant for the G20. Issues such as the increase in food prices, the risk of food shortages in Africa, for instance, that's a very relevant issue also for the G20. So we cannot simply ignore the fact that we are living through a very particular moment in history. And unfortunately, the Indian presidency has to cope with that. These issues affect also the G20.